Hi guys, how are you?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, hello. I can see that people are starting to roll in now. We've got about 22 on so far.
Okay. Do you want to maybe wait a minute and see if anybody else pops in?
Yeah,
Or we
let's give
should
it
get
a minute.
started.
Let's give it
Yeah,
one.
we'll give it a minute and then we'll get started.
Okay. And you can see my screen okay?
Yep, we can see it. All good.
Perfect. Perfect. I think we can probably get going. I think the numbers have stopped rolling up, so whenever you're ready.
Sure. And we're recording, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay, perfect. So if anybody wants to come back or misses the first bit, we can always send this out to them after. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this snowy Tuesday afternoon. My name is Forrest, and I'm joined by Erin Kemp. We are here representing not only Kemp Travel, but Lakeshore Tours and Cardinal Coach Tours as well. So for those who don't already know, Kemp Travel purchased Lakeshore and Cardinal Coach Tours. I guess it'll be coming up on just about 2 years in the spring. So we're all one big happy family, and we're continuing to work together to bring you some of the great travel experiences we've offered in the past. So I know it's been a bit of a crazy year for everyone, and travel's been impacted pretty heavily. But it's good to see so many people come out to talk travel with us and hopefully plan ahead for the future. So if the experts are right, I think travel is going to come back with a vengeance. So international may take a bit longer, but we're thinking Canada might come back first. And we live in such a beautiful country. I think it's going to be a good year to travel our own backyard. So if you're here from the Lakeshore and Cardinal side, we're going to be focusing on a few destinations that we already have tours for planned for this coming summer in 2022. That is Haida, Gwaay in British Columbia, and then we'll have the Yukon and Northwest Territories, which are in this coming summer. And then our Yellowknife tour, which was supposed to be this coming March. And just so everyone knows, we have pushed that back to March 2022, just with the borders up north still being closed. So it gives us a little more sell time. So if anybody's interested in that, that will now be in 2022. So if any of those tours don't work for you, we're happy to plan ahead on something else. And yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Darcie from Anderson Vacations. They're a Canadian-based company with Canadian experiences. I've had the pleasure of listening to Darcie speak before. She knows her stuff, so I will leave it to her to take it away.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks, Erin, for having me. I'm super excited to be here because I get to talk about my favorite place in the world, Canada, and 3 destinations that are really near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited to get started. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today. My job today is really just to inspire you about these destinations and maybe, just sort of get you excited about perhaps traveling to one of them or maybe all of them eventually. There has never been a better time, for obvious reasons, to consider traveling in your own backyard, as Eric mentioned. And so that's what we do. We're a Canadian company based out of Calgary. We've been doing this for over 27 years, and our specialty is Canada and really unique off the beaten path experiences. So let's get started. My name is Darcie Guarderas, and I am the Director of Business Development for Anderson Vacations. I'm originally from Winnipeg, but I live on Vancouver Island now in Nanaimo. And interestingly enough, I left a very cold place to come somewhere warm, but I spend all my time in the north of Canada because I love it so much. And in this photograph, you can see me giving a little kiss to a dog, a little pupper, in the Yukon. And I've been to the Yukon many, many times, so I'll share some really great experiences with you on that. But we're going to actually start with Haida, Gwaay. Now, Haida, Gwaay, probably 5 years ago, there's several people who would never even have heard of Haida Gwaii. It was previously known as the Queen Charlotte Islands. And really what brought it to the attention of Canadians was a few years ago when the royal family came over and they did a little tour of Haida Gwaii. It really brought it into the media and to the forefront. And there's been a really strong focus on people exploring the northern part of Canada, northern BC, really, really popular. It's not that difficult to get to, and there's several ways you can do it. We are working with Kemp Travel on this fantastic small group tour, but you can also do it independently as well. There's a ferry that goes from Prince Rupert over to Haida Gwaii, and it takes about 7 hours on the ferry. It's a daytime ferry, so it's really part of the experience. Prince Rupert is the gateway to the pristine north in BC. So that's where most of our tours will start, in Prince Rupert, and you'll spend 1 or 2 nights in this quaint little town. It's absolutely adorable. The harbor is gorgeous with lots of little shops and restaurants, cafes and things, great to wander around, lots of wildlife. Hopefully on the ferry you'll see some wildlife, but then when you arrive here, there's actually a boat cruise that we often encourage our clients, our mutual clients, to take to the Kutsi Matin, which means the land of the grizzlies. So this is an area where you'll see lots of grizzly bears, whales, porpoises, really connect with nature here. And I think that's the one thing that people are looking for right now, is to just disconnect from all the electronic stuff, because we've had our share of it for the last few months. And as we start to travel, reconnect with nature. Now, I've got to mention that I have been traveling considerably in the last few months within Canada. I've been very fortunate, and I've been on about 16 different flights, and people always say, aren't you nervous? And if you read the research, it's actually one of the safest places you can be. And once you take your first flight, I was talking with Eric and Erin, they've just recently traveled. And once you take your first flight and you wear the mask and you're very careful, it's sanitizing things, you'll feel much better about that. And with the new news about the vaccine coming, and I read today that Canada's up there on the list, we're very, very encouraged and very hopeful. Now, Haida Gwaii is an incredible place. Haida Gwaii actually stands for Islands of the People. There's over 150 islands in Haida Gwaii. We are focused mainly on the main 2 larger islands, and the whole focus is on the incredible history of this area and the Haida people who've inhabited these islands for over 10,000 years. Now, I just see someone raise their hand, which is awesome. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of this is that there is a chat and a question and answer. If you'd like to put questions, comments, or anything in either the question and answer or the chat, what I'll have Erin and Eric do is just maybe monitor that until the end, and then we can ask the questions at the end of the presentation, if that's okay. But I will take a quick look, maybe to see if there's any problems with any sound or anything. I think we're okay, but let me just make sure. Perfect. Okay, I've got Erin and Eric answering any questions, so that's great. Perfect. So let's keep going. So arriving in Haida Gwaii, we've been working with this incredible place. It is actually the accommodation that we prefer to use. There are other hotels, but what we want to do is have our guests really become engaged in the local culture. And Haida House at Talal River is beautiful. It's set right on the river, and their focus really is Indigenous culture. So you can see carvings, you can see the artworks. It's peaceful. It's a comfortable retreat. I like to call it a retreat. And it's known for its local Indigenous cuisine, as you can see in this photograph. Really, really beautiful. And it's sort of the hub. So this is where you stay, and everything it's really centrally located. So everything that you're going to view is not too far away on Haida Gwaii. One of the places that's not too far from the Haida House is Port Clements and Golden Spruce Trail. This is just a short drive. It's an active forestry area with a museum where you can learn about the past and present conditions of the forestry industry. There's a short walk from this main area. There's a museum here that really focuses on the history of forestry. But you can take a short walk to this forest and it's called the Golden Spruce Forest, and see what now is came from a sapling from the original tree, which was over 300 years old. And it has this genetic mutation where it's a spruce that actually turns golden. So you'll have a chance to see that, which is really unique and different. Another great spot is the Haida Heritage Center, and it really is a focus on the culture and the people. There is so much history in Haida Gwaii that is to be celebrated. So spending a few hours at the Heritage Center will take you through all of the history, and you can see the tools that they used, the different regalia that they wore in the past and now, and you really hear the stories of the Haida people. Anthony Island. Okay, this is a great place. It's a National Historic Site. It's actually, let me just look at what it's called. It's UNESCO World Heritage Site, actually. And it's an ancient village. And you can tell by looking at these totem poles, they've been there for a very, very long time. Now, SGang Gwaay is the traditional Haida name for Anthony Island. And there's a historic story here about when you go here, you can hear this noise coming off the rocks. It's the wind coming off the rocks. And there's, of course, a story related to it that it sounds, it's called the Wailing Rock. And it sounds like a woman wailing when the wind hits the rock the exact way. So there's all kinds of history and stories that you'll learn about while you're visiting this area. But it is an ancient old part of Haida Gwaii, lots of history. From here, you would head to Greater Masset. And there's a fabulous museum here called the Dixon Entrance Museum. Again, focusing on past and present cultural aspects. There are 3 traditional villages here that you can go in and hear the stories. In many cases, they will have an elder here where you can hear him telling stories, he or she telling stories, and you can see these gorgeous wide open spaces. And I think that's what people are looking for right now, is really looking for places that are wide open, fresh air, and that's what Greater Masset is all about. One of the last stops in Haida Gwaii that we insist people visit is Noikoon Provincial Park and Agate Beach. This beach is really special. You might have seen it before online. It's very famous because there's often photographs of the rocks on the beach. They're beautiful, colorful rocks, and a great combing beach to sort of explore. And very close to here is Toe Hill, where there's a blowhole. It's great for photographers. You can go here, and the water from the ocean as the tide comes in creates this updraft of water and this beautiful blowhole that you can experience. So that gives you a few ideas of some of the things you can see in Haida Gwaii. There's so much more, but really just understand that going here, it's about engaging in the Indigenous people's culture and learning about the history and past. So if that's something that you're interested in, Haida Gwaii should definitely be on your bucket list. Now I'm going to take you on a little journey exploring the Yukon. So far, the Yukon has been open to BC residents only. Right now, there's been a change and they've shut down to all of Canada, but they are talking about in January opening it back up, and fairly soon after that, opening to the rest of Canada. So here's an opportunity, hopefully, for this winter. The Yukon's such a great destination, whether you go in the summer, fall, or winter. And I've got some information for you on all of the seasons. So you'll get a little taste of everything, and you can make a decision on when you want to visit the Yukon. It's not going to be about whether you want to go to the Yukon, it'll be when do you want to go. It is, the Yukon is actually the size of Spain, roughly. So that gives you an idea of how big it is. And it is the most interesting, fun place to go. Like I mentioned, I've been there 5 times. I've been there a couple times in the summer, but primarily I've been there in the winter time. Now on this little visit to the Yukon, we're going to explore the capital city of Whitehorse, of course, and then head a little bit south down to Carcross, and then over to where you see on the map, Haines Junction or Kluane National Park, and then up to Dawson City. And then from there, when we talk a little bit about the Northwest Territories, it's a natural progression from Dawson City, heading up the Dempster, all the way up to Inuvik, you can see at the top of the map, and then into Tuktoyaktuk, where you can dip your toes in the Arctic Ocean. Now, getting up to the Yukon is really easy. You can use Air Canada as well. I like to talk a little bit about Air North because not everyone knows about this air carrier. If you're as old as me, it's like stepping back in time to almost like War Air days, maybe not quite that far back, but really great service, freshly made meals that are included in your ticket price. And you can even order a special meal, which is something I haven't heard of for a very long time on domestic flights. But my favorite thing is that they have these warm cookies that you can smell on the airplane. And it's a gateway to the Yukon. You can go from Vancouver, Edmonton, Ottawa, many cities, I believe Toronto as well. So there's lots of options to get there flying into Whitehorse. And Whitehorse is the main gateway city. Now, if you're going in the wintertime, you might think to yourself, well, do I have the proper clothing to go there when it's so cold? Well, you know what? Cold is not a factor if you do have the right clothing. And if you don't worry, we've got you covered. We work very carefully with our travel agent partners at Kemp Travel to put together these wonderful packages and ensure that you have everything that you need. So we've got these rentals and they include everything. So not the hat that the lady's wearing, the fur hat in the left picture, but they do include a toque, a wonderful winter coat, ski pants, boots, and even the heavy mitts that you see in the left photograph. It doesn't matter if you're tall or short, what size you are, there's a clothing size for just about everyone. And one of the things that I love about Whitehorse, because it is the gateway, is I never expected going into a northern community that would have such an incredible food scene. These are just a few of my favorites. One of my favorite oyster houses in all of Canada is in Whitehorse. They get their oysters from both coasts of Canada, fresh, amazing. Antoinette's is a Caribbean fusion restaurant. Who would guess this would exist in a place like Whitehorse up in the north? If you're going to the Yukon, most people have a craving to, of course, experience seeing some wildlife in the wild. And there's a very good chance that you will see some in the wild. I've seen moose while snowmobiling. I've watched a lynx cross the road in front of us. But to ensure that you do see your share of wildlife, a must visit is the Yukon Wildlife Preserve. It is an incredible facility. It's huge. So these animals can roam around freely. They're in their own areas, but they have lots of space. And the preserve cares for the Yukon's injured and orphaned wildlife. So they bring the animals here. Sometimes they find them on the side of the road. They've been injured, hit by a car, or they've been orphaned by their mom. And they bring them here and they're taken care of for as long as they need to. And then if they can, they'll release them back to the wild. If not, they'll spend the rest of their life in this incredible facility. And you can see Dall sheep, bighorn sheep, moose, Arctic fox, muskox, all kinds of animals. But the best part is you can go on a guided tour of this preserve. And I've done it, I think, 3 times. And every time I go, I want to visit again and again. And these photos are actually my own photos, just taken with my cell phone. So you can see how up close and personal you can get with the wildlife. Another great thing to do in the winter, of course, is snowmobiling. It's really about disconnecting. Again, these are my photos. You've got these incredible trails that you go down with the snow hanging over top of you. You can go on the lake. If you've got the need for speed, you can go quite quickly. And then on the tour, you can actually stop and have a little hot chocolate on the side of the trail. It's really quite magical. Ice fishing is really fun too. I hadn't done this since I was a kid with my dad, but there's a little warming shack on the ice and you can include this in your package while you're visiting in the wintertime. And you can go ice fishing. I didn't catch any fish, but that's okay because it was still really fun. We got to use the auger and drill our own holes and we sat out there for a bit. If you get cold, you can go into the warming shack with the fire. But what was really neat as part of the tour was we actually had a shore lunch on the lake. So they started a fire for us and we cooked some smokies right in the lake. It was really beautiful. And it was just a really kind of a mystical, magical day to be out on the lake. Now, this is a must do for anyone going to the north. Now, you get this experience in lots of places in the north. In Whitehorse, it's really special because they have something called the Yukon Quest. Sorry, lost that thought for a moment. The Yukon Quest, which is a 1,000-mile race from the Yukon to Alaska and vice versa. It goes the other direction year to year, it changes. But going up here to have an experience, you can actually come to the Yukon and learn how to dog mush. Now, I've taken people up here who had never experienced dog sledding, who came back a year later and actually did a 3 or 5 day program where they learned how to be a dog musher for their own dog team. You learn about the history, the First Nations culture, and again, connecting with nature. The photograph on the left, I'm actually in the dog sled. They're pulling us and they're pulling me, and I was in the sled for about an hour and it was incredible. You almost get into this meditative state as you're going through these beautiful trails. It's incredible. And from cold outdoor activities, you can actually step indoors. You can do Lumel glass blowing studios any time of year, whether it's wintertime or summertime. But in the winter, I love it because you're outside in that fresh, crisp air, and then you step inside this glass blowing studio. It's a really special place because it's a really sort of spiritual place, because Lou, the lady in the top right hand photograph, this is her studio. This is her dream she brought to life in the Yukon, which works with First Nations groups and brings them in. And she actually has a portable glass blowing unit that she takes to some of the First Nations communities to work with the people. And you can go here and create your own art and learn how to do glass blowing. It's really, truly amazing. I've done it 5 times. The bottom left photo are the second last thing I did, which are some glass paperweights. Really, really neat. Another great spot in Whitehorse is the Kwan Dun Cultural Center. Again, focusing on the Indigenous culture here. You can do a wonderful walking tour here. If you're lucky, the elders will be in the building at the time that you're there, and you can hear some storytelling. And outside of this building, you can see these small little shacks. And these are actually artists in residence, where they bring local First Nations artists into these small little cabins. And in the summertime, it doesn't happen in the winter, but in the summertime, you can go and visit the artists, look at what they're doing. They'll explain to you and hear the stories of the crafts that they're making, and even purchase those for a lovely gift for yourself or your loved ones. Now, most people are asking about the Northern Lights when they're thinking about going north, and definitely you can see the Northern Lights in the Yukon. I put this photo in. It's not the best Northern Lights photo, but I did put it in for a reason. It's actually taken from my hotel. So we're in the town of the city of Whitehorse, and there is light pollution here. So without even leaving the city and going to one of the Northern Light viewing platforms, you can actually already see them. So you can only imagine how powerful they are if you do go to one of the viewing platforms outside of the city. From the Whitehorse, you would head down to Carcross on most of our itineraries. And Carcross is this really interesting little community. It's about an hour outside of Whitehorse. Carcross is short for Caribou Crossing because of the large number of woodland caribou that migrated this region many years ago. It's known for its sand dunes in this area. It's actually considered to have this world's smallest desert you can visit while you're here. And again, very cultural. You can go into one of the little shacks here and watch them carve the totem poles and masks and things. And you can actually speak with the carvers. There's a gentleman here named Keith Wolf-Smarsh, and he is a local master carver, and he's always seems to be there. Every time I've been there, he's there, and I get to spend time with him and hear about the stories of his family and the stories of the totem poles. From here to Haines Junction or Kluane National Park. This is the home of the largest number of genetically diverse grizzly bears in the world. So if you're lucky, you may get to see a grizzly. It's also home to Mount Logan. Now, Mount Logan is Canada's highest peak, and you can do a sightseeing flight here and fly right over Mount Logan and land on the Hubbard Glacier, which I just did in August, actually. So that again would be a summer fall experience. We landed on the glacier, which was covered with snow. Now, this was in August. It was absolutely magical. The flight was incredible. You do fly over Kathleen Lake, which is in the left. You can see this beautiful aqua color. This whole area is great for outdoor activities. If you want to hike, this is the place. And you can go on a guided hike here with a professional tour guide, so you feel very safe with proper equipment. Absolutely spectacular. Some great accommodation here. Wonderful lodge right at the base of the mountains. Really, really special and must stop on your journey in the Yukon. Now, you can't go to the Yukon without going up to Dawson City. And again, Dawson City really is more of a summer experience, summer and fall. It was my first time to Dawson in August, and it really is the heart of the Gold Rush region. I did feel like it was stepping back in time. There's a city bylaw that doesn't allow any building to be built without the code of it looking like it's from the past. So it's really difficult to tell, is this a new building or is this an old building? And Dawson City is really interesting because all the roads are made of permafrost. So there's actually a little street where you can see some buildings that, because of the permafrost, it heaves when it melts and freezes. So there's these two buildings called the kissing buildings that touch together because they've heaved and the roads are moving so much. Really amazing, amazing place. Very safe. You feel very comfortable walking everywhere. Lots of history. The gold rush history is incredible. So from, if you're not familiar, from 1896 to 1899, really it was just 3 years. I love this photograph because you can see all of the people, all the Klondikers in the background sitting on the buildings. There was over 100,000 people that made their way up to the Yukon, primarily from the US, from California, from Seattle as well, going up here. Interesting fact is that in order to go into the Yukon, they had to bring with them a year's worth of supplies coming up here, which was no easy task. It was quite difficult as well. So this city, Dawson City, back then was known as the Paris of the Yukon, because with all this money coming into all this money, there's something like $29 million worth of gold taken out of the ground in 3 years. So with lots of money, people, are looking for things to spend it on. So what pops up? Saloons, houses of ill repute, all kinds of interesting things. So it was a really interesting place back then. Now there was about 30,000 people in the Yukon, and only about 5,000 people live in Dawson City. It's a gateway to nature. From Dawson City, you can head out in the summertime and do all kinds of incredible hiking, head up the Dempster Highway in the fall, see beautiful colors. But within Dawson City and around that area, it is really about gold. It's gold and tourism. You can try your hand at panning for gold, or you can visit Diamond Tooth Gertie's for nightly entertainment, where they have the Can show, which is really fun. It's like a little casino with an incredible show where you really feel like stepping back in time. Now, Diamond Tooth Gertie's a real person. She actually had a diamond embedded in between her two front teeth. Now, if you're in Dawson City, you must do the sour toe cocktail. Now, the original, that's a toe, that's a real toe. Original frostbitten toe was self-amputated by a 1920s miner. Now that one doesn't exist anymore because something happened to that one, but they've had over 7 different toes that have been donated, and you can still donate your toe if you lose it to frostbite. But the whole idea is to take a drink with the sour toe inside the drink, and then you get your certificate saying that you've done it. Unfortunately, due to COVID, I was not able to do it, so I have to go back to Dawson City for my chance to drink the sour toe cocktail. Another great thing to do while you're in the Yukon is visit one of the lake lodges. There are several of lodges. Most of them are just outside of Whitehorse. Some are as close as 25 minutes away or even a couple of hours. You can do a flight. And in this case, I'm about to get into this little aircraft to do a flight to one of the lake lodges. This in itself is an experience that I will never forget. We left out of Whitehorse, and as we fly out, it was about a 45-minute experience. And as we fly out, we're heading over these beautiful lakes and rivers with this turquoise water. And within 15 or 20 minutes, it goes from green trees and blue water to what you see on the right as we fly over the glaciers. It almost felt like we were actually on Mars, and we were really low, very, very close. You can see the crevasses. And then from here, you head back over the lakes in the green, and we saw an albino moose and all kinds of beautiful Dall sheep and wonderful wildlife as well. And then we eventually landed at one of the lake lodges surrounded by mountains, pristine nature, really disconnecting from it all. So that gives you a little, cap of what there is to see and do in the Yukon. I'm just going to see how we're doing for time. We're doing okay right now. We're going to jump now into Yellowknife and the Northwest Territories. Now, the main reason that people go to Yellowknife is for the Aurora Borealis. You can experience that in many parts of northern Canada, but Yellowknife is the best place in the entire world. It's a misconception that Iceland or Norway or Finland are the places to go to see the Aurora Borealis. The Yellowknife is the one place that you are most likely to see on your journey. Of course, it's never guaranteed because Mother Nature is in charge, but I've been to Yellowknife several times, and of all the nights I've spent there, only one time did I not see the aurora borealis. And I took photographs with my cell phone, but of course, if you have a great camera, there are people up here that will help you with your camera to get the best possible photographs. This is actually a photograph taken on one of our own tours last February, not the February that just happened, the one before that, on one of on our Yellowknife Aurora tour. So this was not taken by a professional, this was taken by one of our guests. So it is truly a magical experience to see. And that's another great photograph. So you can see, and you'll learn about, the actual story of what happens with the aurora borealis and why it occurs while you're there. Really fun to drive on an ice road. If you've never done it, it's incredible. You can actually, in some cases, hear the ice cracking beneath the vehicle. It's absolutely safe, but it's really a unique experience. There are some wonderful festivals up here in Yellowknife. The Long John Festival takes place in January, and there's ice castles, throat singing, a lot of focus on the Indigenous culture here as well. I mentioned before, snowmobiling in the Yukon, a must-do in Yellowknife as well. And dog sledding in Yellowknife. And so we'll work with Kemp Travel to put together these packages, and they're fully customizable. So if this is something that you're really interested in doing, we can put together the package that includes the dog sledding, we have ice fishing here as well, the snowmobiling and so on. Or you can join one of the tours that we put together ourselves or that Kemp Travel is working with us on for 2022, where you can join a small group. Now, I should tell you that Anderson Vacations has been doing small group tours for a very, very long time. I like to say we were social distancing long before it was cool, because we've always had a smaller group of people on a larger coach, which gives you lots more space and lots more option to have that window seat in most cases. So please keep that in mind as well when you're considering traveling up to the north, that working with Kemp Travel, who are travel experts, they know what they're talking about. Again, focusing on the Indigenous culture up here in the Northwest Territories, having the opportunity to connect with the elders and hear the storytelling and see the artifacts and the crafts that they do make. I was able to purchase some incredible gloves, mitts, and moccasins for a very reasonable price. And I think it's really special when you get to meet the person who actually created these, and they're selling these locally. I actually purchased a couple of carvings as well. So again, you'll be engaging with the local people here and learning about their history and their stories. In the summertime, you will have the opportunity for bison viewing. There is, again, all kinds of wildlife encounters in the Northwest Territories, but a really well-known one is the summer bison viewing. From this area, heading up, I mentioned earlier when I showed you the map, it's included in many of our fully escorted tours, or people who are traveling independently will often want to travel up from the Yukon, heading up to Inuvik on the Dempster Highway. In the fall, I mentioned that it's a great time for fall colors. Wonderful hikes and also some flight seeing experiences where you can fly over the Tombstone Mountains. But you can also drive up here in a self-drive with your own rental car and head up to Inuvik. Inuvik is a wonderful community. Again, very strong First Nations culture here. There's a photograph of a little girl. She's actually a little girl that I've met on my journey while I was up there. And I did have the opportunity, you can see in the top left-hand photograph, this is a church. It's the Igloo Church in Inuvik. And if igloos are your thing, you can actually have an experience where you can go just outside of Inuvik and sleep overnight inside of an igloo, which I had the great pleasure of doing a couple of years ago. I went there just to view the igloo, and then they offered us the opportunity to stay in there. That's not included in our group tours, but it can be done on an independent basis if you're traveling on your own. So you just need to ask your Kemp Travel agent about that. We can work together. Now, Tuktoyaktuk, not many people can say that they've been to Tuk, but I did have the pleasure of getting there. And one of the great things about going to Tuktoyaktuk is you have the bragging rights to say that you dipped your toes in the Arctic ocean. So that's really neat. One of my favorite things to do when I travel, especially in the north, is to go to the grocery stores. There's a teeny tiny grocery store in Tuck where you can go in, and I just love looking around to see what products they have, what products they don't have. And one thing that really stands out for me when I was there was they were selling avocados, which was really unusual. I didn't expect them to have fresh avocados, but they were selling them for $16 per avocado. So it was outrageous. A gallon of milk was something like $14. So really, really unique. And again, a really strong cultural influence there. So I think we did pretty well on time. We did about 35 minutes. So we have some time for question and answers. Maybe I'll get Eric and Erin to turn their camera on. We'll see if we had any questions at all. Hi, guys.
Hey, we're back.
Okay, great. So that was a little taste of 3 different destinations, hopefully to get your clients interested in maybe traveling to these destinations, and they can reach out to you if they have any questions. I put my information for Facebook and Instagram if they want to follow us, but you want to definitely reach out to your travel professional because they'll work with you.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, with our departures with Lakeshore and Cardinal, and then we'll also have the Yellowknife in March. So if you were interested in either season, you can join us on that, or if those dates or itineraries aren't quite what you'd like, you can talk to us and we can do it on your own. And then Haida Gwaii will be in June. So a lot of cool itineraries in Canada. So if anybody has questions about those specific itineraries, please reach out and we'll be happy to talk to you about those further.
I do see a question that just popped up here.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, there's a hand.
Robert has a hand up. I don't know if you can unmute his line.
Let me see.
Or Robert, if you can type your question into the chat, we can read it out and
Yeah,
answer that as well as another option.
Is it Robert Tran?
Yes.
I think I can. I just clicked allowed to talk. So Robert, if you want to try talking to ask your question, let's see if it works.
He needs to unmute his microphone.
You would just have to hit the unmute.
Oh, there we
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay. For the Yellowknife tour in March, is there any daylight then? Or is it all dark up there?
There is some daylight, but it's mostly dark, but there is a couple of hours, a few hours of daylight, definitely.
When would that be, like at noontime, or what? When is the day got light?
So I went in February. So let me think about this. It was like a few hours, sort of regular midday. I think it got light around 9 o'clock, and then it got dark probably around 3.
I'm good. How are you? 9 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
For 2 hours, and then the rest of the day is dark?
You know what? I'd have to double check that because, to be honest with you, I can't. I remember a few hours of daylight, but I can't tell the top of my head.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, there'll be light for a portion of the day, but it's not completely pitch black. It's more like you'll still be able to wander around the city and there's street lights and it's nice.
There we go. Yeah, that's right. There's going to be, it never gets completely, it's not pitch black dark, and it's not really bright either. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and the good thing is each night we're going out of the city, and there's activities based around the viewing. So there's lots to do, and we'll keep busy. So there's no need to worry about not having enough to do on this tour for sure.
Does anyone else have any other questions? I see Karen, you had started typing a question, but I don't see the end of that. Well, if anyone has any questions, we have our contact info available. You can contact us by email or reach out to us on Facebook or our social media platforms or our websites.
Or just call us in the office. Oh, Janice, dog sled. For our tour, the Yellowknife, the dog sled is included. So you wouldn't have to book that before, but if you were looking to book something on your own, then that's something you could book yourself. But if anybody had questions about that, please just reach out to us and we'll be happy to kind of talk about things a bit further. All right, well, I guess if that's it, everyone hopefully knows where to find us. We'll put our emails in the chat box, and hopefully we'll see some of you out on these tours in the future.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Erin, for having me. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Darcie. Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Take care.